Hello, Orchard Archivers, and thanks so much for joining us here again today on another episode here at the Caramel Apples Podcast, where the topic is rarely about apples. I'm Kennedy Rizzo.
And I'm Cooper Lee.
We have a nice treat for you this week, and where we'll be discussing the wonderfully iconic retro dance show, that of Soul Train. So, are you ready to board and get down to experience the hippest trip in America? Let's boogie. Oh, what's up, Coop? Are you ready to deep dive into the most exciting retro excursion on what a wild ride down the track was to be had on Soul Train?
I am Kennard. I am so ready to go back and enjoy some of the flavorful history and fun memories queued up by way of grooving down the tracks of Soul Train.
Facts.
Mhm.
And this is a great way to start off our new season, with Soul Train.
Sure.
Soul Train was definitely a serious fixture, regarding pop culture during that era, but it was a most familiar, cherished staple in our lineup of entertainment while coming up.
It really was. And dare we say why? That would be because of the mama.
The mom.
The mama. Mom loved her some Soul Train, didn't she, Kennard?
Oh my gosh, she did.
So let's get down, into what we love and remember about Soul Train. Are you ready?
Oh, I thought you'd never ask. Soul Train was a music dance television program which aired in syndication from October 2nd, 1971, all the way through March 27th, 2006.
Talk about longevity.
Oh, yeah.
Soul Train was some poppin', high energy entertainment right there.
Wasn't it though?
Oh, yeah.
Oh my God. Once it came on, like on Saturdays, we were simply mesmerized, glued to the tube.
All the while jumping up from our seats on more than a few occasions to jam it out to current R&B hits right alongside the crew and other regulars from Soul Train.
Oh, we sure did, Coop. And you just mentioned longevity in the, get this, 35-year history of Soul Train.
That's a long time.
It really is. They primarily showcase performances by R&B, soul, dance pop, hip hop, along with some funk, disco, jazz, and gospel talent sprinkled in there.
Mm.
One of the more nostalgic features of the show was who not only hosted the show, Soul Train, but he also pioneered its concept by creating it as well as executive produced it.
See, that's interesting. And, that undertaking was carried out most successfully by none other than the iconic Don
Uh
Cornelius.
huh.
But more on him in a bit. We keep highlighting how iconic, how nostalgic, how amazing Soul Train was. But the old adage in that numbers don't lie. And on that thought, I found something in regards to the numbers I found pretty fascinating about the show. Beside it um, touting its 35-year history, was that fun fact: the number of episodes on record for the show was, get this, 1,117 episodes.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, so many, many years, many, many episodes. So the $1 million question is, was Soul Train a success? Well, the proof is in the caramel apple crisp.
Oh, totally, Coop. I love the way your evil little mind thinks. But another standout feature of Soul Train was hands down the opening sequence that highlighted a smooth, animated locomotive with multicolored smoke pouring out of its smokestack
Yeah.
and steam coming out of its sides. It was way cool, like jamming and grooving as it trekked through its cityscape, tunnel, and through outer space around the Earth.
Hmm.
I can see it in my mind's eye right now. Oh no, that dancing train was surreal, almost graffiti like.
Yeah, it was ultra cool. I agree.
Yeah.
This was no doubt one of your fondest earlier culminations that launched your love of trains.
Facts.
Everybody knows of the love of trains with Kennedy. This is not a hidden secret. So, the Soul Train was awesome though,
Hmm.
and it fascinated us. But I think it scared our kid brother though, since he was small at that time.
I think it did. Guilty as charged. But Coop, that train was bad.
Yes, yes.
I mean, it was a total favorite memory of mine, heavily connected to the show.
Hmm.
I think it's safe to say that, similar to how we feel about that awesome train sequence, that there are many a tried and true Soul Train fan who feel the exact same way about it.
Sure.
Yeah, I mean, it did its job and stood out, adding a nostalgic layer to Soul Train that further etched deeply into our hearts.
Yes. But the train naturally went through numerous changes over the course of its 35-year run.
Hmm.
That goes without saying. You can just imagine why. And as well as the scenery sequences surrounding the train during its charge, in hyping up the show,
Hmm.
and an important layer that was a key contributor to the success.
That point right there, Coop, that point is key, when trying to describe the many winning and amazing components that really resonated with audiences.
Hmm.
But quite a few layers of creative genius is what made Soul Train a pop culture success.
Hmm.
So, another cool layer we'll discuss is the theme song that went along with the show. And while the locomotive was getting down, its complete magnetism was undeniable as the two components went hand in glove.
Uh-huh. And one of the most distinctive parts of the opening was when the title Soul Train was announced. Remember, the voice drew out the first word soul and a high pitched imitation of a train whistle.
I do. And that was both fascinating, cool, but semi creepy at the same time. I mean, you can feel it in your spine when he did it.
Yeah.
We absolutely loved it, didn't we?
Yes, indeed. So, since Soul Train was all about showcasing cutting edge dance moves and hippest of hit songs, we're just getting started on how cool Soul Train really was.
Oh, you speak the truth on that, Coop. Goodness, this is awesome. I love talking about this. So excited. But Soul Train was part of a national trend toward syndicated music oriented programs.
Hmm.
And those were specifically targeted at niche audiences. For example, like Hee Haw, what it did for country music.
Sure, sure.
The Soul Train's target niche audience was for the melanin rich part of the population. Caramel people. That's right. Although it's widely known that folks from all walks of life and diverse backgrounds enjoyed the show.
Hmm.
That's how infectiously pleasing it was.
Now, let's briefly talk about the main theme song of Soul Train.
Okay.
It's entitled TSOP, which stood for The Sound of Philadelphia. Is a hit recording that debuted in 1974.
Cool.
This was performed by MFSB, featuring vocals by the 3 Degrees.
Okay.
Fun fact, MFSB stands for Mother, Father, Sister, Brother, which was a group of more than 30 studio musicians based at Philadelphia Sigma Sound Studios.
Oh, interesting.
hmm the Soul Train theme was their second and most successful single.
How
Makes sense,
appropriate.
right?
Yeah. So I guess that means TSOP, aka The Sound of Philadelphia, was released in March 1974, and it peaked at #1 on the U.S. Billboard Pop and R&B charts.
Fun fact, get this. The track sold over 1 million copies and was awarded a gold disc by the RIAA a month later in April of 74. Another fascinating fact on the Soul Train theme song was that it was influential in establishing the disco sound.
Oh, now that's cool,
Mm-hmm.
and that I can believe.
Yeah.
Because let's be honest, disco has that oh so distinctive sound of soul, and it's a classic example of what's called the Philadelphia soul genre.
Mm-hmm.
TSOP was written by Gamble and Huff, who specialized in black musical performers. So, how nostalgic are the words? People all over the
Very.
world. And then we can't forget to mention the chorus over the fade out where it says, "Let's get it on. It's time to get down."
Oh, I love this.
We're nuts.
Oh my goodness. Fun fact. So that line, people all over the world, is not heard in the original version. The version on Soul Train was the series' title song over the first 4 notes of the melody. Soul Train, Soul Train.
Soul Train.
This later version was released on the Third Degrees album in 1975.
So it's not a reach for any of us diehard Soul Train fans to allow our wild imaginations to flow on how all these wondrous components came together and became the retro beast it really was.
Mhm.
We mentioned a little earlier how Soul Train was the brainchild of host and executive producer Don Cornelius. Well, he actually refused to allow any reference to the name Soul Train when the single TSOP, or The Sound of Philadelphia, was released.
Hmm.
And this led to Gamble and Huff to shift to an alternative title for its release.
Okay.
Don Cornelius sounded like he was a no nonsense type of guy.
That might be an understatement. No nonsense is right, and wouldn't take any mess either. But get this, Don Cornelius later admitted that his initial creative decision by not allowing The Sound of Philadelphia be named Soul Train was a huge mistake on his part.
Really?
Yeah. Which led to the chant that was included on the show we now are most familiar with.
Throughout the years, it was re recorded numerous times as Soul Train experienced creative changes.
Mhm.
Various familiar themes were in heavy rotation all through the show's run during the late 70s and early 80s. Soul Train saw and supported a plethora of wonderful genres of music directly and appealed to its target niche audiences, such as the already aforementioned disco.
Mhm.
Also 1980s R&B, there was hip hop music, neo soul, and a unique but notable entry, New Jack swing eras of black music. Coop, Soul Train was the bomb. But when Soul Train debuted in its early days and fascinated many audiences far and wide, one of the key reasons it stood out was because at the time, there really weren't any other commercial TV programs being produced by Black people for a Black audience.
Mhm.
Soul Train literally was one of the sole nationally available shows by Blacks at that time, which was revolutionary at that time.
Indeed, Kennedy. But not only was it created and produced by Black people for Black people, it opened up a number of sponsors and their products as well for the Black audience.
Yeah, think of all those different products. Products.
Products. What kind of products?
Just products. Yes. Long story, people. We'll tell you about it later again. But Coop, just think back to all that representation alone, when you think of specific hair products.
Yeah, like Afro Sheen.
Totally. I fully remember so many of those. And
Yeah,
and those commercials were well executed and cool for the times.
yeah.
There's really a whole neat backstory how so many of the creative components came together in Soul Train's early history and Don Cornelius's dedication to seeing his ideas and concepts surrounding dance and music come alive. I don't know. It was absolutely fascinating.
Yeah, yeah. So let's now talk about the Soul Train line with its unforgettable Soul Train dancers, shall we?
Oh, we shall.
Because you can't talk about Soul Train and not talk about the line.
That's right.
Now, a question that some may inquire and or wonder about is, were Soul Train dancers paid for their appearances and participation on the show?
Hmm.
So the short answer is no.
Hmm.
Yeah. In fact, aside from a couple of extreme exceptions, like if and when some big star visited the show,
Hmm.
it's our understanding that none of the dancers were paid to dance on Soul Train.
Oh, that's interesting.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
I bet that for mostly everyone appearing on the show, though, that they were just down to groove and jam it out to the latest hits.
Sure.
All the while sporting the latest retro, and I do mean retro, fashion of the day. Oh my goodness. And getting that exposure, on television
Yeah, yeah. That right there was probably payment in itself, right?
back then.
Yeah, now, the outfits and the originality, the expression, the creativity, and the spontaneity.
Are you finished there, Coop?
I'm just getting started.
That was quite the extensive list there.
But seriously, I am done. Smarty pants. Really, though, all of that and more is describing the essence of what Soul Train was about, is what defined the show and made it freaking awesome.
Facts.
I mean, like, who didn't like or want to get down with Soul Train?
Hmm.
That was our jam when we were younger.
It sure was. And they'd be tearing it up in that ever popular Soul Train line, like you just said.
Okay, so fun fact, the Soul Train line is actually a variant of the 1950s fad known as the stroll.
Oh, really?
Uh huh.
Never heard of it. That's pretty interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Soul Train line was there where all the dancers, it would form two lines on opposite sides facing one another. With a space in the center of it. So dancers at the start of the line, one from each opposing side would strut and dance to the music in a fashionably consecutive order.
Mm-hmm.
First concept of it consisted of a couple having men on one side, women on the other. But then that later changed. They mixed it up and it was more, versatile by proudly displaying the strut, just if you could dance, basically.
Yeah.
They let you put your more individual flash and flare out there.
Yeah, and I was thinking there's a good representation of the Soul Train line. And do you remember the movie Hitch
Yes.
with Will Smith? They have a Soul Train line right there at the end of the movie. So it's like, if nobody really knows what we're talking about, it's like, watch Hitch, go all the way to the end through the credits. You will see the Soul Train line.
That's funny. Good example. That's cool. Yeah, and I bet you, if we really did stop and think about it, there probably are quite a few um, movies and shows that put it in there because it's that popular.
Right? You know, we should do a count someday.
We'll have to.
Yeah, we'll just have to see how many movies or shows we can name that actually did some variant of it, or yeah,
Yeah, well,
the
like what's
idea.
the electric slide? And that kind of like something they would do down the Soul Train line.
Right. They probably did.
I wouldn't doubt it.
But we digress. Those dancers were working it on the actual show. And as you said, getting down and getting funky.
Uh-huh.
And sometimes they'd showcase new dance styles and moves introduced by some of the regulars each week.
It really was the in-studio dancers, the regulars, if you will. They dance along to the music being performed.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Oh my goodness. Do you remember Jungle Boogie?
I can hear it right now.
Jungle Boogie, booga booga.
There were many a famous celebrity that found fame and careers launched from, their first starring on Soul Train.
Oh yeah.
Uh, do any of these names ring a bell? Ever heard of Rosie Perez?
No way.
Uh-huh. Pebbles. Yeah, Nick Cannon, Carmen Electra, and even NFL legend Walter Payton. Yeah, they were among those who appeared on, got their start and careers launched into showbiz from dancing on Soul Train over the years.
Everybody has a start.
Okay, you Orchard archivers, we just named a few famous folks who got noticed while dancing on Soul Train. Do you remember anyone else that got their noteworthy start on Soul Train? Do any of you Orchard archivers have experiences, stories, or just warm, fun memories connected to Soul Train, period? Please feel free to share with us and hit us back with your fond memories. We so can't wait to hear from you so that we can ignite this amazing discussion.
Oh, that is facts right there. This has been an awesome, amazing discussion so far. Like what you hear so far? Make sure you never miss a show by clicking the subscribe button now. This podcast is made possible by listeners like you. Thank you for your support. Now, back to the show. The Soul Train was also known for two of its major catchphrases, like Soul Train being the hippest trip in America,
Uh-huh.
and that was always at the opening of the show.
Mm-hmm.
And at the end, it was like, and you can bet your last money it's all gonna be a gas, honey. I'm Don Cornelius, and as always in parting, we wish you love, peace, and soul.
Hey, Kennard,
Yeah.
we just got a message from one of our loyal Orchard archivers with an answer to our inquiry on someone becoming famous from appearing on Soul Train as a dancer.
Are you kidding? Wow.
The answer given is Fred Berry, aka Rerun, from the beloved 70s retro sitcom, What's Happening?
Oh,
Yeah, wow,
wow.
that's crazy cool, right?
It is.
Thank you so much, PB and J08, for posting your answer.
Yeah, thank you.
Giving us your insightful retro intel for listening to our podcast. We so appreciate our orchard archivers.
Oh, we sure do. Thank you. That was so cool. I think that's one of our fastest responses yet. Oh, go figure. That is so cool. That made our day.
Yes.
But it really shows like Soul Train that truly make you wish you could go back in time to truly experience that raw nostalgia of what the show presented.
Yeah. And even though we were younger back then, we through our fond memories did experience it.
Oh, yeah.
Coming up in our formative years, Soul Train came on every Saturday on Chicago station WGN, which, thanks to cable, we could easily access it at that time.
Just think about those cats rocking the platform shoes and bell bottoms.
Yeah.
Oh my, the oh so distinct fashion of the 70s and 80s. Even though the fashion matched the retro funky groove at the time, they were still mostly modest and overall classy and in good taste.
Hmm.
But they still had that swag, that real swag going on.
Oh, for sure, Kennard. Like, there was nothing cooler than Soul Train.
Yeah, Soul Train was like so much of why entertainment is created. Um, it serves as a refreshing escape.
Hmm.
We as kids were kind of naive to the world and its deep problems all around us, but that didn't mean that those said problems, issues weren't there.
Much agreed. The fact there were problems actively going on as part of the train was a nice, refreshing escape from the common ills that worried so many.
To your point, it was a beautiful thing to see people, allowing themselves to fall free to the hip groove of the music.
Hmm.
Truly, this era was such a vibe.
It most certainly was.
Uh huh.
Well, when it came to the influence Soul Train had over its audience, some keen observations have implied that the show was like a Black American bandstand, if you will, which for conversational purposes, there were arguably some similarities, but Don Cornelius would often bristle at the bandstand comparison.
Uh oh.
Yes, no nonsense. Although he did somewhat acknowledge that Dick Clark's show played a role as a model for Soul Train.
Yes, both similar business models per se,
Mm-hmm.
but they had obvious different niches.
Sure.
Now, another development sprung from this when 2 years later, from Soul Train's debut in 1971, in 1973, Dick Clark had a light bulb go off. Boing! And that was in as creator and producer of American Bandstand. He decided to introduce a new creative idea, following the hot trend at the time by launching the dance show Soul Unlimited, which was arguably controversial due to its obvious racial overtones and such, which Soul Train had already pioneered and was proven successful. Uh-oh.
That's like the milk carton that just says milk. Hmm. How did Don Cornelius take or view this development? I can almost bet that old Don was ticked. Am I
Well, your insightful guess on the situation is spot on, Coop.
right?
So get this. As you can imagine, not only was Dick Clark's Soul Unlimited hugely and obnoxiously patterned off the Soul Train,
Oh my god.
it was slated to basically directly compete with Soul Train.
Oh, the jugular.
Uh-huh.
But isn't it said that a little healthy competition is good in the long
Well, yeah, in most cases, but
run. When you're
apparently
dealing with no nonsense, though, however.
no nonsense Cornelius. Yeah, not this one. Oh, but Don Cornelius was ticked off. Highly annoyed, Don Cornelius and some high profile allies at the time.
Mm.
Ever heard of Jesse Jackson?
Oh,
Yeah, he was serious.
a time or two, yeah.
So, them and some of these allies pointed fingers at Dick Clark of attempting to undermine Soul Train, which was television's only black owned show.
Oh my god. This is my sandbox. So what came of it?
Well, Dick Clark truly meant no ill will. He didn't.
Right.
Being an innovative business mind himself, he capitulated and agreed to cancel So Unlimited only after a few episodes.
Wow.
Yeah, so he's a graceful guy. He was trying to be, he was trying to be cool about this.
Sure, sure.
So this proved to be a most wise and peaceful move. For it is said that both media moguls agreed to work together on later projects together. Some network specials showcasing like R&B and soul artists. So, but the squeaky wheel.
Woo! Glad that was settled in a sound way. And of the two competing shows, we're so happy to know that Soul Train was what our endearing nostalgia is made of.
Uh-huh.
Don Cornelius was a no nonsense type of guy.
Oh, he was. But Don Cornelius had so much of his dreams and aspirations invested into the show, which was obviously noted how fiercely he protected his concept.
Mm-hmm.
So we may ask, why was Soul Train so important? Well, because it represented a go to image of Black culture as upbeat, exciting, and vibrant.
Which are the very components conveyed even in our own retro memories.
That's right, Cooper. Soul Train was instrumental in attracting many viewers of other ethnicities, as well as contributing to the growing appeal and prestige of what Black culture was in mainstream America.
That's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Although Soul Train was mainly about showcasing the dancing music of that era, as the music played, they also played games on the show, which Kennedy and I remember. So, fun fact, the game where two of the dancers are given 60 seconds to unscramble a set of letters that form the name of the episode's show performer, their songs, or some other notable trivia of a person in Black history.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that game was called or coined Soul Train Scramble Board.
I do remember it.
Mm-hmm. And describing or setting up the trivia for what they were spelling out, Don Cornelius or other later hosts concluded their description with the phrase, whose name or song you should know. Depending on the specifics of the question, like no pressure, right?
Yeah, you can totally hear his voice saying that too. Yeah. Whose name or song you should know. Yeah, there's pressure. That's why I'm going to go back to dancing.
Right.
That's too much work. We're going to dance. But Cooper, Soul Train worked because dancing and music, those two powerful things combined, was such a go to form of escape and entertainment.
True, true. Clubs, dancing, and disco were such a hot thing going strong during that era, which was crazy cool and nostalgic.
Mm-hmm.
Seeing folks getting together on TV to jam it out to the latest R&B hits was the ultimate social scene back then.
It was.
This is what the hip and jive did for their time.
You speak the truth on that fact, Coop. Yeah, socializing, dancing, and clubbing really started blazing white hot in the 70s, on into the 80s, well, even into the 90s.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
It was a way for the youth to get together and spend their time being cool and having fun with their friends.
Clubbing was really live and a thing in the 90s. It was like huge.
It was Coop. And Soul Train pioneered and provided an awesome outlet for this cool social phenomenon.
I agree. Far different than the go to choice for entertainment and socializing nowadays, where youth now, and it's both their choice as well as their prerogative,
Hmm.
spend copious amounts of time on social media, the internet, and interactive video games.
Hmm.
But hey, at least they're with their friends, right?
Yeah, yeah. And this new wave of socializing now actually works out well due to the effects of adapting our lives differently as a result of the pandemic.
Mm,
So it's really not all bad, to be connected so well digitally speaking these days.
yeah. But I personally do miss how people socialize so much more in person back when we were coming up.
Yeah, me too.
We frequently speak of good times involving our girl squad. We really need to get that air horn already.
Note to self, huh?
Yes. And it wasn't unheard of for people back then to opt in getting together, glamming up, and hit the club circuit to boogie, say up to 3 to 4 nights a week, much like what was showcased on Soul Train. Things really are so very different now.
Yeah. Soul Train really did set a clear standard of what was hip, down, and smooth when it came to not only entertaining and inspiring its target niche audience.
Hmm.
Um, but as the TSOP, the Sound of Philadelphia song so proudly boasted, people all over the world. Oh, Cooper, this was the most fun and highly anticipated topic we look forward to covering.
It was. And our deep dive this week did not disappoint.
Mm-mm.
And hopefully our listeners feel the same way. So, as per usual, we could go on and speak of many more fascinating details on Soul Train. But before we wrap it up, there are a couple more things connected to the show that bears mentioning. Fun fact: Soul Train had a lot of top talent make memorable appearances on the show. But did you know that the first performers on the first syndicated episode on October 2nd of 71 was none other than Gladys Knight and the Pips?
Oh, that's awesome. Oh, my goodness. Yeah, a little way before our time, but it's good when we do research when we find out cool stuff like that.
Absolutely.
Soul Train really was part dance party, part concert, and 100% revolutionary.
Hmm.
I'm not 100% certain, but I think the song performed was their infamous Midnight Train to Georgia, which is so cool singing that song as the first song and star performance on Soul Train.
Right?
Ah,
Yeah, I don't know if you could have planned that any better than that.
no, you got to keep it real.
Right? Don Cornelius was over the moon about having them perform on the first show, too. So much so that, fun fact, he enthusiastically introduced them as four beautiful people who represented a mighty mountain of soul.
Oh, Cornelius was in a good mood that day.
Yes, he was.
That's nice. Everybody's happy.
Everybody's happy.
Well, Soul Train was also presented and brought to you by Don Cornelius Productions. Makes sense.
Hmm. Hmm.
Hey, Cooper,
Yeah.
this is random, but did you know that Cornelius was 6'4" tall?
No. Wow. Was he really?
Yeah, I know you're usually the one that springs off the fun facts, but I didn't know that either.
Well, good one on you.
When you think about the show, you see him, you can see him holding that microphone and everything. Like, I don't know, you didn't think of him as a short or tall guy, right?
Right. I don't know. Yeah, I just never really. I mean, we were kids, so everybody was tall to us back then. So.
True. Well, I guess we learn something every day, don't we?
Absolutely.
What else you got there, Cooper, to share before we wrap up our intriguing discussion?
Well, we spent most of our time and attention on Don Cornelius as primary host of Soul Train,
Hmm.
for a few obvious reasons. One, it was his idea, his show after all.
Ah.
And two, Don was reigning king, host of Soul Train throughout the height of tenure, and right smack in the middle of our designated decade parameters.
Mm.
But there were other hosts of Soul Train after Don Cornelius.
Wasn't Don Cornelius done hosting in 1993?
Yes, he was, which is crazy cool because starting in 1971 all the way through to 1993 is quite an impressive run.
And committed.
Hmm.
He had some laser focused dedication right there, didn't he?
It was.
Mm-hmm.
But you may find it neat to learn that from 1993 to 97, there were various guest hosts trying their turn at the train. Fun fact, there were three after the guest host stint. Can you recognize these? We got Mistro Clark, 1997 to 99, Shamar Moore, 2000 to 2003, and lastly, there's Dorian Gregory, 2003 to 2006.
Well, I think you and I both only recognize one of those names.
Safe to say yes.
Like, who doesn't?
Right.
I'm sure the other two are good too, though.
Sure, sure.
Well, Don Cornelius is our most familiar host, though, and he is Soul Train.
Yeah.
In the recent years, as he got older, the show morphed and his personal life had some upsets. Um, Don Cornelius sold the show to Mad Vision Entertainment in 2008, had two marriages that ended in divorce. Then he started to experience horrible, painful health issues.
Hmm.
Yeah. Oh, in a sad turn of events, this media titan was found deceased in his Sherman Oaks, California home on February 1st, 2012. How tragic.
You know, it most certainly is. But according to his son, he quoted that his iconic father said shortly before his death, I don't know how much longer I can take this, end quote.
Hmm.
Yeah, in reference to extreme pain connected to his ongoing health issues. You just never know the true extent of another's struggles. It's so sad.
It is sad, and for somebody who, really dedicated himself to the cause of creating the wild ride that Soul Train was, and our memories are forever grateful for it.
You sure are. Throughout the show's enviable 35-year run, Soul Train pulled into its last stop when production of first run episodes ended in 2006.
Ah.
Yeah, it was time for Soul Train to move on and out.
Oh, I'm sad now. Oh, no, not the train.
So sorry.
Well, truly, when it came to the hypnotic influence Soul Train had on its audience, it's not hard to see why it was coined as the hippest trip in America.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And each time we tune in and start our own dance party in front of the tube, that was our resounding agreement each time it was on that that was indeed the case.
Mm-hmm.
Like there was nothing cooler than Soul Train.
And an ode to the late Don Cornelius. I'm Cooper Lee.
And I'm Kennedy Rizzo.
And as always, in parting, we wish you love, peace, and soul.
Soul.
So that's it for this week's episode. But next time, we'll be talking about hero cars. So stay tuned. You won't want to miss this. Thanks so much for listening to this podcast. We so appreciate your support. Subscribe to make sure you don't miss a beat and be ready to revisit more memorable, fun archives and better times. Same time, same place, and the Retro Orchard. You just experienced the Caramel Apples podcast, where the topic is rarely about apples. Bye.